Part of my job as a psychiatrist is to help people deal with some of the pain and suffering that they've experienced in their life. I'm Dr. Anthony Collada. I'm a board-certified psychiatrist. And part of the methods I have in treating these conditions are medications, therapy, education. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about some of the healthiest ways people can deal with some of the pain, frustrations, challenges that they experience in their life. Now, sometimes these hurts and pains can be buried deep down and may not easily come up when we see a therapist or a doctor, and so we may not recognize these as issues. That's because we have our conscious mind and an unconscious mind. And typically what we talk about is in our conscious mind. And so the more one talks about the conscious mind, a good therapist is going to help them to reveal what's deep down, what's in their unconscious, what has maybe they put aside for several months or years, or maybe stuff they've experienced with in their childhood that will come up during the therapy visit. And so really what a good therapist will do is go deep down into what is really bothering people or distressing them. Now, this video is going to talk about some of the 6 healthiest psychological techniques one can do to deal with some of the stress or conflict that they experience in life. Now, there are several unhealthy ways people could deal with it as well, but I'm not going to really talk about that in this video. This video, I'm going to focus more on the healthy ways. One of the healthiest ways to deal with conflict or stress in life is by doing a good service to others. Even when we sacrifice our own desires or wills and we focus on the good on others, not only does that help them, but that's going to help the person doing the giving as well. And this is known as altruism. One example of altruism is donating blood to a stranger. Because by donating blood to a stranger, not only are you helping them, but also you don't get anything back in return. So it's really a good deed for others. But you may not expect anything back in return, but really it does help, even physiologically, because it's thought that donating blood can help with the cardiovascular system, as well as help encourage the blood to regenerate more red blood cells to replenish what was given away. So donating blood not only is helpful for your mental health, but also with the physical health as well. Another way to deal with stress or anxiety in life, for example, if there's an event coming up that you know is going to cause tension or some uncomfortable emotions, prepare for that event. An event maybe like a job interview or maybe an exam for school. This is known as anticipation. And anticipation is essentially preparing for something that they know is going to be uncomfortable or anxiety-provoking or may provoke some fear. So rather than escaping from those emotions and going the opposite direction, almost face it head on. And just deal with the anxiety by preparing for whatever it is that's causing the stress. Another healthy way to deal with some of the pains or challenges in life, by denying oneself some pleasure or comfort in order to have more self-control in other aspects of life. One example can be if someone just goes through a relationship breakup and they have a lot of painful emotions related to that breakup, they can challenge that into something like discipline in their work, or focusing on their diet or exercising. Basically, they're handling those painful emotions in a way that's more constructive. And now this is a term called asceticism, where you're basically denying your body's pleasures or the sense of comfort. And it's a very important practice in religious worship as well, because it's well known that the body has natural pleasures or inclinations that it gravitates towards, whether it's food, sleep. And so the more that you can decrease the body's natural tendencies towards that, you can challenge or change the body and mind to focus on other things, whether it's increasing one's spiritual life and relationship with God, or doing something better for humanity at large. Another healthy way to deal with some of the pain or challenges in life is by putting humor into even difficult situations. One example is someone receiving chemotherapy treatment may joke that they no longer have to pay for a haircut anymore because chemotherapy drugs, often people lose hair from it. If a student fails an important exam in their class, they may joke with their friends that at least they're giving their professor job security for next semester. So humor can be a good way to attach something funny or humorous to what is a painful event. Now, this is different than sarcasm, because in sarcasm, people tend to add a little bit of hostility in there or some tension. And so sarcasm is actually considered unhealthy, whereas having humor, basically putting something fun or light into an otherwise painful event, is healthy. Now, one of the best methods for dealing with life's challenges or conflicts is having a negative emotion or tension and transforming it into something that's positive and constructive. And this is called sublimation. And some examples of sublimation could include someone having anger or aggression, and they challenge that into something like sports, like kickboxing or boxing, or they challenge that aggressive energy into something healthier. Another example could be someone who has a tendency for a desire to control, and they challenge those energies into being a good business leader or maybe being an excellent surgeon. And so they use that tension into something constructive. Now, this is a process called sublimation, where it's basically transforming what could be something unacceptable or undesirable at the time into something healthy, constructive, and beneficial, even admirable to others. Sometimes people can get conflict or tension that they just can't deal with at the time, and so they avoid it or they suppress it for another period of time. For example, take a doctor who's seeing patients during the day, and they just found out that one of their close family members have passed away. But rather than grieving while they're dealing with the patients, they deal with their patients and the work, and at the end of the day, they take time to process some of the grieving response or those emotions that come up. So suppression is this notion that there's a painful thought, feeling, or impulse, but one, for whatever circumstance or for whatever reason, can't deal with it at that moment in time. So they focus on whatever task or what they need to do. They save a period of time later in the day to process some of those thoughts, emotions, or impulses. Those are some of the 6 healthiest ways to deal with life's conflicts or struggles. Now, a lot of these techniques are therapy techniques that a therapist or mental health clinician will help people to identify or work through some of these negative impulses or tensions. Now remember, just knowing these techniques are not a substitute for mental health treatment or medications, but educating oneself can be an important tool or important practice to help them in dealing with some of their mental health struggles. Hopefully you liked this video. Please like the video. If you did, subscribe to the channel, help support the channel, and thank you for watching.